What's going on, everybody? Today we've got something brand new here to the channel. Kind of been in the works for about a year, honestly. Started with me just creating a manager last year to kind of have some fun with, have like a storyline with it, and it became a little bit more than that. So I want to bring it to you guys in a brand new way that has not been seen before when it comes to FM. You will have probably seen these new FM stories that Clates and Second Yellow Card have been putting out, and they are absolutely fantastic. However, one thing that I wish would happen with those is that they would be a little bit longer, kind of like a storyline. And that's what we're going to have starting here today. Now, being that today is the inaugural episode of this series, we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty, like the rules, kind of explaining everything, getting the background info on the manager, and some other things as well, along with seeing where he ends up for his first job. So let's explain the Legend of Belmonty and what it's going to be. This is a storyline. It's not just a story, which usually only cover a few seasons. This is going to follow Jamie Belmonty throughout his career. Each episode will be one season in its entirety, so episode 2 will be Belmonty's inaugural season, as today we're going to be finding him his first job. Mr. Belmonty is going to be starting unemployed, and we will begin our job hunt on the 1st of November in 2023. From there, we will see out his first contract with the first club, and the summer of 25-26, we will be able to seek his second club or sign a new contract and continue at the current club for at least one more season. When moving jobs, you will be able to have an effect on the way his career plays out. In some scenarios, you, the viewers, will be able to decide whether we stay or go from that club, and sometimes even choose which club Belmonty is going to take his talents to, and if any players are going to be going along with him. At the end of each season, there will be an update on his career stats as he works his way to becoming one of the best managers of all time, which will allow us to see all of his career managerial stats at the end of his final season. So now that we've gone over all that, the Legend of Belmonty can now begin. December 28th of 1990, in a little seaside town called Bordeaux in France, a young man by the name of Jamie Belmonty was born. From a young age, his parents and coaches alike could tell that he had something special about him, as he saw the game in a completely different way than everyone around his age. Now, this led to Belmonty retiring at an early age, as he didn't really see himself getting to a super high level in the game of football, but when it came to his knowledge on the game, he knew if he became a manager, he could potentially become one of the greats. So that's what he did. He retired, started studying, become a manager, studied the likes of Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Arsene Wenger, and Roberto De Zerbi, as those four managers really influenced how he saw the game. And by combining those four managerial styles, it allowed him to create his own version of football, Belmonty Ball, which is always asymmetric and everyone can do any job at any time. So come November 1st, 2023, when he started to look for his first job as a manager, he had one thing that he swore by that he was going to stick to his entire career, and that was play asymmetric football no matter what. So with some big clubs having some openings such as Parma, Burton Albion, ADO Den Haag, and even Genk in Belgium, he had one major question to ask himself. Will any of these clubs see any value in hiring an inexperienced manager? He ended up hoping that a lot of these clubs would take a shot in the dark and bring him in as their manager, as he applied to 12 different clubs. And so now all he had to do was sit and play the waiting game and see if any of these clubs would reach out to him and offer him an interview. Unfortunately, none of them would. However, a club in the national division of France known as Châteauroux were willing to take a chance on Belmonty, but Belmonty didn't really see that team meshing with what he wanted to accomplish, especially when it came to playing asymmetric football. So when they did offer him the job, he ended up deciding to walk away. And after Châteauroux, another national level French side came in wanting to bring in Jamie Belmonty. That club was Nancy. Now, Nancy played in a 20,000-seater stadium and also were up in Liga not too long ago. They currently found themselves in 13th, 3 places above Châteauroux, which if Belmonty decided to take that job would have made things a little bit easier on him for sure to be able to ensure survival within the league. However, one thing that was a big red flag to him immediately was that they were in the red in the bank balance. One thing that he wanted to make sure that he could do his first year was focus solely on football. So even though Nancy were interested in bringing him in, he once again decided to walk away. But shortly thereafter, another club from the National Division in France wanted to bring him in as well. And that club was FC Rouen. Now, FC Rouen sat one place above Châteauroux, two below Nancy. And they were not in the red. So everything was looking honky-dory. Now, it had been 2 months since he started his journey in trying to become a manager in the world of football. So this job offer from FC Rouen kind of seemed like, okay, third time's the charm, maybe we go here. Well, he actually decided to once again walk away. And there is one major reason as to why he decided to walk away. And that's because there was another job offer on the table from a club that is not too far away from his home. On January 5th, he was sitting at home in Bordeaux and received a job offer from a club that is right down A62 and A65 in a little city called Pau. And Pau was a very intriguing option for him, as he could 100% play the asymmetric football that he wanted to play. The club also had over £1 million in the balance. So there's two big check marks immediately. He can play the asymmetric football that he wants to do, and he can 100% focus solely on football, as there's over £1 million in the bank. One thing that was also pretty intriguing to him was that when they came to him, they were in 18th place out of 20. But when they offered him the job, they ended up being in 13th. So they were hitting some good form at the time. So if he were to come in and continue that, he could solidify himself as being able to keep that job going into next season. So he decided to negotiate his contract, offering him a 1-year deal on $2.8K per week, and he decided to accept. So it was time for Pau to welcome Jamie Belmonty. So day one of the job, they are in 13th place. And one thing that he noticed is that they do not score goals. They only have 19 goals in 19 games on a -7 goal differential. And their top goal scorer, Charles Bawley, only had 7 goals. So he knew immediately that he had a lot of work to do. Tactically, he was going to set up in a asymmetric 4-1-1-4 or a asymmetric 4-2-3-1. And when looking at the side, he knew he needed to bring in more quality, which is definitely one of the top things on his agenda. But one thing that's going to hinder him from doing so immediately is that he has no recruitment team, as there is no director of football, only one scout being the chief scout, and he has to completely overhaul that recruitment team. He decided to take a look at their general performance statistically. They were below the league average in goals per game. They were below in non-penalty XG per 90. They were averaging more conceded per game than the league average as well, and had fewer average shots than the league average. So he knew attacking-wise, this side 100% had to improve. Because thankfully they already had 5 clean sheets, which was up there for best in the league. So with his first match against Rodez AF coming up in 8 days, and the big dogs of Ligue 2 coming up in Saint Etienne, he knew that he had to improve this side immediately and as quickly as possible. So with lots on his to-do list, such as building out a recruitment team, fixing up the attack in this side, and hoping that he could get the best out of 33-year-old Henry Saivet and 38-year-old Tino Costa in midfield, he knew that he had a mighty big challenge on his hands. But he identified 2 veteran talents that could drastically improve the side. But will they end up joining? Only time will tell.